I'm joined by Emmy-nominated filmmaker Olivia Newman, whose adaptation of Remarkably Bright Creatures turns a beloved novel into a moving and deeply human film about grief, connection, second chances, and one unforgettable octopus. Olivia, it's so great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. That's a great summary.
Thank you. Now, first of all, congratulations on your first Emmy nomination. How wonderful.
Thank you. It's a very exciting time.
It is. It's wonderful recognition for a film that has resonated with audiences in such an emotional way. And it's so great to see Remarkably Bright Creatures recognized across multiple categories. So, what do these nominations for the film and for you particularly mean to you?
Just that it's connecting with so many people. That's all you can hope for, right? And some movies connect deeply with just a small group of people, and that's great too. And some connect across a broader audience. And I think that the universal themes in this film really reach people at all different ages and all different backgrounds. And so I'm so pleased that's why I tell stories, because I connect with them emotionally, and I hope that they reach the people that need those stories too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what the film's done. One thing that struck me about it is that it would have been really easy maybe to pitch this as the movie with the talking octopus, but that film would have been fine. But this film works because it's really, to me, in my reading of it, is about loneliness and obviously about grief and finding your way back to other people. As you
Yeah.
just said, this is a very universal theme that we all share, no matter who you are. Was that what you responded to most when you first encountered the material?
Gosh, it's interesting. My life went through such enormous upheavals over the process of reading the book, working on the script, shooting the movie. So for me, I kept connecting to different themes in the book throughout that experience. I lost family members, my mother-in-law, after I began writing the script. Then I lost my house in the fires, and 5 days before we started prepping the movie. So I kept finding different themes in this story that resonated with me on such a deep level. I think reading it the first time coming out of COVID and feeling so far, from people that I loved, I think that, the theme of finding your community and reconnecting with people, and that being such a source of joy, and being back on set with people that I had worked with on my first film, who I love so dearly, and sort of, constructing this family that you do every time when you're on a set. That really resonated for me, that theme. And then, as I was thinking about what's the meaning of home, and losing your home, or having to let go of your home, or looking for a home, as I was sort of experiencing all of that for the first time in my life, was just deeply moving to me. I kept seeing all of these things in the book, and in Tova's experience of letting go of these objects that carry such deep memories, just seeing them in a different way. So, I think there's a lot for different people to connect to within this story. Those were just things that I very personally related to.
Yeah, you went through such an unimaginable experience of losing your home in the LA fires shortly before this film was really on its way. And I can imagine that period would have altered the way you connected to the story, because it is ultimately about resilience and loss and rebuilding.
Yes.
And I just wonder, were there ever any moments, particularly during the early stages of production, where working on this film was almost like a balm or a way for you to process some of that loss yourself?
100%, 100%. I always say, just like Tova and Cameron they really need to find a purpose in order to find joy again. For me, having this movie to make was knowing that making this movie was what my family needed me to do at that time. That was I can't imagine going through that without having that very specific purpose. And then working with, again, having this community of filmmakers who were there for me, but also all sort of in sync on why we all wanted to tell this story and the way we wanted to tell it. That also was just, it was fortifying. So yeah, I can't imagine having gone through something like that without this movie to kind of keep me buoyed.
Yeah, and grounded. So let's talk a bit more about the film itself. Sally Field. That's all I have to say. All right, see you later. Sally Field.
And done, period.
And scene. Like, honestly, for everything she's done in her career, and she's one of the GOATs, but she's so perfect in this film, and I can't stress that enough for this audience watching us today. I read that Shelby, the author, Shelby Van Pelt, actually imagined her while writing Tova. And then when she comes on board, did it change the way you thought about the character? Talk us through bringing her into this film. Was that particularly challenging? Tell me everything.
Well, Sally was attached to the movie before I came on. So
That's
Sally
right, yeah.
actually attached to the project from the book. So the producers, Brian Unkeles and Peter Craig, sent her the book when it was still in galleys. She read, a few chapters and said, yes, let's do this. So Sally's voice was in my head when I read the book for the first time, because I knew that she had already agreed to be in it. And that was really helpful also in working on the drafts of the script, to be able to write to her specific voice. And then when Sally gets the script and she reads it out loud, she adds a whole other layer that is hard to, you think you can imagine how she's going to sound, and then she brings so much more. And Sally also is, she's incredibly collaborative when it comes to the script, to the project on a whole. And so she would often come with notes on the script and rework dialogue to kind of her cadence and, to how she felt the character, might react to something. And so it was, even on set, that kind of collaboration continued, which, can be just absolutely wonderful when you're working with somebody of her caliber.
Absolutely. And I think you've spoken about being drawn to Tova and Cameron because despite the age gap, they're both facing the same question about what comes next in life.
Yes.
Was that an important thematic connection or when you were developing and writing the screenplay?
Yes. I mean, it was one of the things that when I first read the book that moved me the most. When I read the book, I was going through some similar questions that my mother-in-law at the time, we were dealing with some health issues and whether to move her out of her house and into a assisted living facility. And I was relying on the advice of dear, dear friends of mine who were in their 80s, who had become sort of surrogate grandparents to my kids living out in California. And I was getting a different perspective from them than I had as a, middle-aged woman thinking what's best for this woman in her 80s, and realized how much those cross-generational relationships matter. I feel my life is fuller because I have friends who are not my age and who can offer me a point of view that is different. And so for me, that friendship is vitally important, to see that these two people who can on the surface seem so different actually relate to each other so well, because as you said, they are both facing this question mark of, what's the next chapter in my life? And even though they're at really different phases of their life, they can relate to each other because they're asking similar questions. And so that was, for me, that was the biggest draw to making this movie, was to explore that relationship, which I think doesn't get enough attention. And then of course, I'm a huge fan of octopuses. I love octopuses so much. So when I heard there's an octopus and you get to hear his voice, I could have, you could, and Sally Field, that was enough for me.
Sign me up.
Sign me up, yeah.
When I was talking to your visual effects collaborator, Chris Rippo, and also your DP, Ashley Connor, we were talking about how the octopus is such an interesting creature. It looks like an alien. It looks like a Ridley Scott film, and yet they're so elegant. There's so much that we could talk about with octopi, and Marcellus would have, I assume, been a huge challenge, because if he doesn't work, the entire movie doesn't work really. Like we would be out of the story every time he appears in the frame. So at what point did you realize that you cracked the code on how he would be portrayed on screen authentically?
I mean, I knew the honest answer is not until we finished the visual effects and locked, because
Risky.
you're just hoping, that it's going to look the way you imagine it. But I did know that Chris Ritvo, bless him, is the hardest working visual effects supervisor I've ever worked with. And I knew that he was up all night stressing, so I didn't have to. But really it was the collaboration with Untold and our animator based in London, the meetings that we would have over the course of post, where they would show us, footage that they were working on, and they would always show us a side-by-side of what a real octopus was doing and their CGI octopus that was imitating that exact movement. So I knew that they were, we were always going to be basing our octopus on a real octopus. There was not going to be kind of cartoonish invention. It was very clear from the beginning, this octopus needs to be as photoreal as possible. And I told Chris from the beginning, I'm going to shoot footage of a real octopus who lives in the aquarium in Vancouver named Agnetha, and I want to use footage of her interchangeably with our CGI octopus. And this is a terrifying thing to say to a visual effects artist, because if you're looking at something side by side, you will see the difference. But that was sort of that was the goal post that we set, that we be able to use both. And we did. And I haven't heard anyone shout out which shots they think are real and which aren't. So he did it.
Yeah, he did it. You did it. You all did it. No freaking clue. To me, it was seamless. And I really, really cared about this octopus, like, deeply. And a big reason as well is because of Alfred Molina. What inspired casting. Can I just say, as an aside, one of the biggest Emmy snubs this year is him not being in the voiceover category. I just don't get it. But let's put that aside. We get, it is what it is.
We could have a whole other
we could do it. We could do it. And I'll start getting really annoyed, and I'm not going to do it. So we're going to keep this super light and happy. But he is so good. He gives Marcellus intelligence and like irritation and warmth and surprising vulnerability. What was the collaboration with him like in shaping the voice audiences would hear throughout the film?
Well, we had a long conversation before he got into the booth about the character, the personality, Marcellus's arc. He had read the script, and I don't think he had seen the movie at that point. So he had read the script, and so he understood from the page who this character was. But truthfully, we were rewriting for Marcellus all the way through post. And one of the wonderful things I discovered about having a character who's mostly CGI is that you can keep writing for them, you can reblock them, you can create scenes that you didn't intend, that weren't actually ever in the script, but you have the plates and the camera movements to actually create a whole new scene. And so we didn't, we didn't have Marcellus's full scripted lines until we had locked picture. And so that's when we brought Alfred in. And it was, it was these conversations ahead of time. And then it was just playing. When we went in and did ADR, he had the scenes in front of him, and he was very physical in his delivery. So he would imitate the movement of Marcellus on screen, and we would try different things out. It was important to me that we know from the beginning that Marcellus is an old man. That was, always, I did not want to cast somebody who did not sound like they were towards the end of their life. So he needed to have that sort of wisdom and age, but still a liveliness to him. And then over the course of the movie, I wanted to hear him getting more and more frail. And so we're playing with that a lot when we recorded. But he's just, one of the most generous actors. He's willing to try 14, 15 different takes of a line and play around. And so, we just had a great time.
When you said the word frail, I got a pit in my stomach because I remembered when they released him back into the water, and I was just like, it was like the Bambi moment for me. Like, it's really interesting when a film or a TV show can get you in the feels, and this one did. And this is what I wanted to save till almost to the end of our interview, and that to me is the secret weapon of this film, and that is Lewis Pullman. Now, I love him. I think he's awesome. He reminds me of his dad, but that relationship between Sally and Lewis playing Tova and Cameron was just, I felt like you really captured something very truthful. And really, really kind of aspirational, inspiring. I'm not really sure how to put it into words. What did Lewis bring to Cameron, in your opinion, that made him the right partner opposite Sally?
Cameron is a frustrating character, and Shelby will talk about this too. He's maybe even more so in the book. In the movie, we kind of really took every support system away from him so that you could feel a little sympathy for this guy who really has no home, no real family, has been floating his whole life. But he's stubborn, and he's a little lazy, and he's not really totally taking ownership over his part and why he is where he is at 30 years old. And so he could be a character that's easy to find annoying or frustrating. But Lewis has this vulnerability to him that is so charming and honest. Part of what struck me when we read him with Sally, and immediately we all said, well, there he is, there's Cameron, is that he was so in the moment with Sally. And, Sally will never do a take the same way twice. And so you have to be really present and on your toes, ready to ad lib if she throws, an extra line in. And Lewis is that kind of actor. And I think that comes through his performance, and his willingness to just be open and play is what brings that sort of that charm to Cameron that really makes you feel for him. And if you didn't feel for Cameron, I think so much of the emotion of the movie would not be there. I think that you wouldn't believe that Tova would reach out to this mess of a kid if there wasn't something about him that, despite his, annoying posturing, she can see right through it and sees the child that needs to be mothered. So I think Lewis truly is the beating heart of the movie.
He really is. And I think once people see the film, they all agree. You wouldn't think that going in. You'd think this be completely from Tova's perspective. And a lot of it, of course, is. But, I really, really connected with him and his performance in this film. My final question, Olivia, is about the way that you shaped this film as writer-director. I really loved how you trusted the audience as well. The film doesn't rush its revelations. It lets relationships develop gradually. In today's landscape, where there's often pressure to explain everything quickly, how important was patience as a storytelling tool?
Gosh, that's a great question and a great observation. I mean, I think the challenge of this story for us from the script stage was, we want this to really be about this relationship between these two people. And yes, there's this sort of mystery that's leading us through it, but really the reason we are on the edge of our seat is we want to see what's going to happen between these two people. We're invested in their relationship. And so it takes a different kind of patience. It's really not a plot-driven movie. There are some questions that you're waiting to have answered, but it's mostly about watching these characters, seeing how their relationship evolves, wondering if they're going to grow up the way they need to, right? Mm-hmm. And to invest in characters like that, you have to give space to their relationship in the movie. You can't rush through the growth of that relationship, and you have to believe it. So that takes time for a relationship to evolve organically. I that was always important for me, for the producers, for Sally, all the way through all the drafts of the script. We never wanted to kind of rush through that character development and that relationship development. And it was something that everyone who was hired on the team, my DP understood that. My wonderful editor, Tamara Meem, understood that. I brought on people who are really into character-driven stories and understand that that's where the focus was going to be. So I think that's all of those pieces come together in that way.
Yeah, perfectly calibrated, because when the big reveal happens, spoiler alert, people, if you haven't watched this film, why are you watching this interview? Go and watch the film, come back. But when the revelation happens, I kind of almost saw it coming, but I didn't, I cared, but it wasn't the main game for me at all. Yeah. It was about these two people just finding each other and being connected. And on that note, I love it how this film is so rare in that it leaves us feeling more hopeful and a little more connected to the people around us, which I think we really need right now.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, on that note, Olivia, thank you again for your time today, and congratulations again on your Emmy.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thanks for watching the movie.